Good morning, great Americans. It's another great American video. There's a lot of celebrations going on regarding Normandy and D-Day, the big D-Day invasion in World War II. Uh, the largest armada of ships ever assembled, the most powerful military invasion ever in the history of the existence of man. It was quite an amazing feat. A lot of guys died. Man, I mean, boy, that was when wars were fought and won, and not just sort of tinkered and dinkered around with drones and stuff and never-ending wars. But that's a whole nother story. So, a couple of things caught my eye, and as always, why do I make a video? It's because I see something on social media and I'm motivated and I don't have a script and I'm unprepared, so I kind of wander a little bit, but follow along with me because this is actually really important. Well, all my videos are important, but this is really important. It's ironic and scary and somewhat disgusting, and it's all kinds of things that on the same day, the same weekend when we are remembering the fallen on D-Day, the invasion of Normandy, and we just got through with Memorial Day and Veterans Appreciation and all that, and what they fought for. They fought against fascism and the Nazi regime and all that. At the same time, this is interesting. The education department, I just saw this today. The education department claims that Columbia University no longer meets standards for accreditation. Why? Because after the terrorists, Hamas and the other terrorists in Gaza attacked Israel, of course, we know they've been wanting to kill the Jews for decades. After they attacked Israel, Columbia University's leadership acted with deliberate indifference towards the harassment of Jewish students on its campus. It was immoral and also unlawful. Of course, we've all been seeing all the radical extremists who are also Democrats, I might add, on campuses flying their terrorist Palestinian flags. And yes, I have a whole other video, by the way, on why there's actually no such thing as Palestine. If you think there's a country called Palestine, you're a fool and an idiot. I don't care what the maps say, and I don't care what the history books. It's all BS. But that's another topic. But this is a related topic. Uh, uh, so we've all seen the stories of these kids flying these terrorist flags, attacking Jews. Uh, the authorities, the college campuses, sort of turning a blind eye. My God, that reminds you of. I mean, if you know anything about the history of Nazi Germany, there was an event during when Hitler was rising to power called Kristallnacht. That's German for the night of breaking glass. So there was a night when the thugs, the Nazi thugs in the German streets went around and they broke all the windows. That's where they got the name from. They broke all the windows of Jewish businesses and dragged Jews out in the streets and started beating and harassing them. And the police, the authorities in the streets, again, they turned a blind eye and they let it happen. The Jews begged for help from the police, and the police and the authorities did nothing. That was a horrible, horrible night in Nazi Germany, and it was a precursor to far worse things that would happen, with the death camps and all that. And we have the same thing in America today. And I don't care. And you know what? And it's the Democrats. You don't see Republicans or conservatives or Trump supporters flying the Palestinian flag, saying free Palestine. There is no Palestine. You don't see, and that's all Democrats. And to have that happening at the same time when we're celebrating, uh, you know, events in World War II when we destroyed Hitler is just, it's like, it's disgusting. It's just truly disgusting, and it makes you wonder what sort of stupidity kids are taught in schools these days, that they don't understand it, and apparently they also have stupid parents. When I was a kid, I just, I had a big, I was interested in World War II, and I bought a big book about World War II, and I was reading it. My dad, he told me about, he kind of filled me in, but my dad was educated, and I guess a lot of parents these days are not. Well, of course, we see that because you got parents celebrating sissy, weird, degenerate freak kids who are trannies, um, uh, participating in boys who are participating in men's sport. If you got parents celebrating a kid like that, then you got parents who are idiots. You have no business having a kid. So it's no wonder that kids don't understand basic history and World War II and why we fought and everything. But again, as I said at the top of this video, I don't have a script, so I'm wandering a little bit. But the point is, you know, on a weekend when we're celebrating one of the final blows against the Nazi regime, the invasion of Normandy and D-Day, the idea that so many Democrats and leftists and these college punks and everything are out there attacking Jews, calling for the destruction of Israel, because when they say from the river to the sea, they're so stupid that they don't understand that they're actually calling for the destruction of Israel. Promoting, siding with a terrorist organization, Hamas, siding with terrorists in Gaza. It's like that's a special kind of stupid. And that kind of stupid is so stupid, it's abnormal. It's an agenda. So these kids are part of groups that have hateful agendas. It's a combination of that and students and also kids who are just flat out stupid. Um, you know, uh, so now you might want to look into a guy named or you want to look into something called the there's a couple of articles. There's a book called Hitler's Mufti. What does that mean? What is Hitler's Mufti? Well, the Grand Mufti of in Jerusalem around the time of World War II was sort of he was the Muslim leader of the Muslims in Jerusalem and around that area that they like to call Palestine, but which is actually Israel and Judea. And Hitler, they were friends. Hitler and the Grand Mufti were friends. They talked about a lot of stuff. They met together. And one of the things that they were in strong agreement on is just getting rid of the Jews, right? And that was a discussion they had. And the Grand Mufti fully supported Adolf Hitler in the World War II effort. Now, isn't it interesting, right? That you've got so here you have this evil alliance of Hitler and the Grand Mufti, the leader of the Muslims in Jerusalem, in what they called the English called Palestine at that time, both wanting to destroy and eradicate the Jews. Now, we fortunately, again, this is the D-Day weekend, Normandy weekend, celebrating D-Day. We beat Hitler and we wiped out fascism in Europe. What is it about Europe that always gives us the stupid, nutty stuff? Fascism, communism, socialism, all the crap comes from Europe, man. That's another story. So we wiped them out. You would think that it would have got wiped out, but it didn't. It lived on in Jerusalem. Why? Because frankly, the British who controlled what they called Palestine at that time, British controlled Palestine, really were no great friends of the Jews either. I mean, we have this sort of mystical fantasy view of World War II as it pertains to the Jews and how all the Allies were equally horrified at what was done to the Jews. And we promised never again will we allow this to happen. And we supported the creation of Israel in '49 at the with the UN so that the Jews would have a homeland, right? Because they haven't had a homeland since. Well, I'll get to that in a minute. And so we have this mystical sort of fluffy unicorn pie in the sky view that we're all sort of on the same page of it. But we weren't. A lot of Europeans secretly deep down inside are anti-Semitic, and I have no idea where the hell that comes from. But the English were no great friends of the Jews while they were administering British controlled Palestine, right? They let the Jew haters and this Grand Mufti just run wild. They made it difficult for Jews to emigrate to their homeland. The British aren't all they're cracked up to be, and so where am I going with all this? Here's the bottom line: anti-Semitism, anti-hating Jews is all an animal on the left, right? So, as always, leftists and Democrats project. They like to project onto Republicans and say, oh, you're the fascist. Republicans aren't fascist. We don't have any fascist policy at all. You can't name a fascist policy that Republicans have tried to promote in government, and we're certainly not on the side of the terrorists in the Middle East. We stand with Israel. The real the real Jew hating anti Semites are the Democrats and the left in America. I mean, you can tie it all together in one big picture, right? Uh, the the Grand Mufti, friends of Hitler, trying to destroy the Jews, and they've been doing it ever since then. The policies of the Grand Mufti of trying to get Jews out of that area has been ongoing ever since then, and it comes in different forms. And it went from them to the PLO, the Palestine Liberation Organization, and what was that guy, Yasser Arafat, who was the big terrorist, right? And then it morphed into it all. And the Jews keep giving. They keep giving. They gave Gaza back. That's something a lot of people forget, is that the Jews had Israel had the Gaza Strip for a long time. They actually gave the Gaza Strip back to the other side at one point. It's been like, I don't know, how long ago was that? Like 10 years or something, or something like that. And then they turned around and used Gaza as an attack point to attack Israel. And then now everybody blames Israel. Israel actually had Gaza, and they gave it to them as a peace gesture. See, people forget all this stuff. But Jews have always been the victim. It's amazing how Jews, I mean, from the days of the pharaohs and Moses, the Israel. Now, you may not be a Christian, and you may not be a Jew, and you may not believe in the religious aspect of it all, but historically, the Hebrews were at one point in time the slaves under Seti, Pharaoh Seti, and then they were released, right? And so that's a fact. Now, of course, if you're religious, then you believe that God was behind that, like I do. But at any rate, they've always been slaves, right? Except for the brief time when they finally had their kingdom, the kingdoms of David and Solomon, and in the land of Judea, where today's Israel exists, they built the temple there. They built the first temple, and then they built the second temple in Jerusalem. That's the Jews' land. Oh, and I said there's no Palestine. Well, I have an entire piece on that. I'll put a link to in this video. But here's the short story about that. The short, brief, 1 minute story about that. After Jesus was put to death, and that also is a historical fact. It's not. I'm not bringing religious into it, but a few years after that, the Roman Empire came in and just knocked the crap out of the Israelites. They knocked the crap out of them. They deposed them. They destroyed the temple. They took the land. Well, they already occupied and controlled the land before that, but now they just flat out took it, and they renamed it. The Roman Empire. They renamed it Palestine as a slap in the face to the Jews. So this was the land of Judea, the kingdoms of David, and the kingdoms of Judea, in that area. And Jerusalem was the capital where the temple was. And like I said, the Romans destroyed the temple. They renamed it Palestine as a slap in the face because uh, that's a sort of derivative of the Philistines. So the Philistines were there. That's where you get the word Palestine. It sort of gets changed into translation. But that really, Palestine or Palestinians are actually Philistines. And so the Romans renamed it that, and that's what it was called for a long time until foreign powers again took control and blah 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 and all that stuff. But it was never legitimately really a Palestine. That was just a construct of the Roman Empire. Right? It's not real. It was fake on paper. So that's the short story on that. So there is no Palestine. There were Philistines, but that was the land of the Jews, and Jerusalem is the eternal capital of Judea, or what we will now call Israel. And that's their land, and that's the way it goes. So, anyway, the point I'm trying to make today is to, on this day, on these few days, these weekends, these celebrations, when we're celebrating Veterans Memorial Day, and now we're celebrating or remembering the invasion of Normandy and D-Day, a big step into defeating Hitler and the Nazis. We need to remember that the spirit of Hitler and the spirit of the Nazis lives on in the Democrat Party in many ways. And one of those ways is the hatred of the Jews, the siding with the people who want to kill the Jews. And I'm going to tell you this: those kids on college campuses who are waving their Palestinian flags around and harassing Jews, they are no different than the Hitler Youth. Those are Hitler Youth. Hitler Youth, man, that's what the Hitler Youth used to do, is go around and beat up Jews in the streets while the authorities turned a blind eye. That is exactly what happened on the college campuses. These little Hitler Youth bastards, oh, they make me sick just looking at them. Little low-life, degenerate punks. I'd like to know who their parents are. Like, what kind of parents are you that teach your kids crap like that? These little punks attacking the Jews, just like little Hitler Youth. And then these worthless sack of shit college professors and the administration and stuff just turning a blind eye to it. And when they were brought before Congress to answer for it, just making snide remarks or trying to evade the questions and stuff. It's you wonder, those brave American soldiers who fought and gave their lives to fight this filth, they must be rolling over in their graves, seeing that today's American youth, not all of them, but a lot of today's American youth on college campus are just as fascist as Hitler. And it's all found in the Democrat Party and it's all found on the left. And I'll tell you what, if you don't know that and you think I'm wrong, then you're a fucking idiot and a moron. You need to pull your head out of your ass and recognize what's really going on. All those kids on college campuses and in the streets and all that, those stupid idiots who are waving their Palestine, free Palestine, they're no better than Hitler Youth. Okay, there is no Palestine to free. Okay, the people attacking Israel are nothing but terrorists who want to murder the Jews. They're no better than Nazis. And these kids who are supporting it, they're no better than Hitler Youth. And they are all found in the Democrat Party. You will not find a single Republican waving a Palestinian flag. Okay. So just remember that. That's just one. That is just one of an entire list of things I could give you as to why Democrats are now the party of sheer, pure evil. As far as I'm concerned, there's nothing more evil than anti-Semitism. And just as a final note, I also made a video about our indebtedness to Israel and the Jews. I hope you watch that video. But just as a final note, to those who would, because sometimes you see this online and people will ask this question, well, what's so special about Israel? Why should we give them all this? Why should we protect them and give them all this foreign aid and blah, blah? We should cut foreign aid to all these countries and blah, blah, blah. Mostly, I would agree that generally as speaking, we should cut almost all the foreign aid we give out because we're in debt. We borrow money every year to keep our government running. Who are we to give out money to other people when we have to borrow it? But what sense does that make? That's why Doge is so important. But see, all these issues are intertwined. I can't go into that either. I don't have time. But we spend too much money on garbage and we borrow the money to do it. That is so irresponsible. But at any rate, I would agree that we should cut all these giveaways to countries because we borrow money and we can't afford it. However, Israel is the one exception, and I'll tell you why. Because I watched my video about our special indebtedness to the Jewish people, and that pretty much answers it why. But if you're not going to watch it, here's the thumbnail. When at the end of World War II, when we were uncovering the death camps and we saw the ovens and the bones in the ovens and the ashes of Jews and the stacks and stacks of dead bodies of Jews and all their bone, and it was so, and they used to, and all the local Germans would say, well, we didn't know about it, and they paraded Germans by these camps, and the Germans were all covering their face, and because there was stacks of bodies, and the SS was so methodical, it was so sick. They would take every piece and stack it for inventory, like the hair and the eyeglasses, and like they'd pull the gold from the teeth and have stacks of gold, and it was horrible. It was horrible, and that left and that left an impression on the American psyche unlike anything else in our history. That is a unique thing to see. It's just true evil staring you in the face. I mean, real, honest to goodness evil staring you in the face. And I think that left an impression on America saying, this cannot, the Jews have to have a homeland. And their homeland is where Jerusalem is because that's where their temple was. That's where their country was. it's almost, from a religious point of view, it's almost the center of the universe, right? Jerusalem. And so the UN gave them that land. Okay. All the evil forces attacked them and tried to destroy it. So Israel sort of expanded out a little bit to create some safety buffers. But basically, that little strip of land is Israel, just a little tiny strip, little tiny spot. And we have the moral obligation to defend that and make sure that that remains. So it goes beyond, it's not just foreign aid and helping allies and arms deals and all that kind of stuff like we have with some other countries. It goes way beyond that. Part of it has to do with what we saw in World War II and the unique experience of seeing that evil and sort of making this unwritten sort of commitment in our hearts to the Jews. We have to defend the Jewish homeland. They have to exist as a place because they deserve it more than any other group that has been persecuted and enslaved for literally thousands of years. They deserve it. And then for those of you who are also religious, Christians, Jews, and so forth, there's that aspect to it too. I mean, the look at the Ten Commandments are sitting over the top of the Supreme Court judges. Whether a lot of people are engaging in revisionist history, but the fact is that Judaism, the Ten Commandments, and what is known as Judeo-Christian values, which is the cornerstone and the foundation of American law. So we are so in debt to Judaism for that, and we are so mindful of what we saw at the end of World War II that protecting the existence of the Jewish state is just a no-brainer. It just has to be. If we're a good, if we are a good people, then we must defend them, right? Why, as they defend themselves. And no, they are not committing atrocities. They're not committing genocide. It's all a bunch of stupid lies. Those are the kind of lies Hitler would tell. When Hitler invaded Poland, he pulled the same shit. He said, "Oh, the Poles." He blamed the Poles, right? He said the Poles were attacking us, and of course it was a big lie. The Poles are weak, and they weren't attacking the Germans. But that's how these sick people are. They always blame the other side, and that's how these terrorist pigs in Gaza waving these Palestinian flags. They take everything they do is right out of Hitler's playbook. Blame the Jews, attack the Jews, eradicate the Jews. These little Hitler youth, pro-Palestinian losers, these kids. So be mindful of that this weekend. As we celebrate the invasion of Normandy, don't forget one of the reasons we voted for Trump and why we must continue the Make America Great Again movement is because one of the reasons, well, there's a lot of reasons, the economy and inflation and other stuff, but one of the reasons is the sheer evil that the Democrats have turned into. They are literally the party of evil, and this Hitler like hatred of Jews on this weekend when we remember defeating Germany is something we must bear in mind. The elections, the 2026 midterm elections are coming up. You can't let the Democrats win that. You can't. Okay, they're the Hitler party of hating the Jews. They're the party that grooms little kids in elementary schools, gives them porn, and forces degenerate, sick lifestyles down little kids' throats. They're the party of inflation and open borders. God, you know, oh, I mean, I could go on and on. Watch some of my videos. I can't keep going, man. But this stuff all ties together. And because of that, you just cannot allow those people to win anymore. They're just, the party of JFK and Harry Truman is dead and buried. And it's been dead and buried for probably a good solid 10 years. The Democrat Party today is a fascist slash socialist party of evil, and they embrace every evil. Look at Pride Month. Oh, here, let me throw that in since it's June on my way out. Pride Month. If you if you were to take the top 10 evils or the top 10 sins in the Bible, pride and sodomy would definitely be listed among the top 10. Pride and sodomy. And somehow these freaks on the left and in the Democrat Party have taken those two evils and wadded them up into a celebration for an entire month. If that doesn't tell you how evil these freaks are, then I don't know what does. Maybe you don't have a maybe you don't understand the difference between good and evil. If that's the case, you're probably not even watching this video. So whatever. Anyway, that's it. We remember the fallen on Normandy and D-Day. Might be a good day to watch that classic movie, The Longest Day. Old black and white movie uh, about D-Day. It's pretty good. Anyway, uh, remember to vote red 2026, 2028. We can't, the Democrats cannot be allowed to get back, and Trump has to be able to accomplish and complete what he started so that we can revitalize this nation. Things are going great already. The border's sealed, inflation's coming down, gas prices coming down, businesses are coming back. Foreign nations are investing in American businesses coming. You won't hear all of that on the fake news media, and the only thing Democrats can do is cry and pee their pants about pronouns, and they come to the defense of illegal aliens who rape little girls. I mean, that's what the Democrats are all about. So anyway, remember to vote red, and I will see you in the next great American video. Adios, muchachos.